Who? The finance director. She has the finance director. Yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask the HR director about the budget.
Are we ready?
This
Okay.
department.
We are ready. Welcome everyone to our study session of October 15th, Monday night at 6 p.m. And we have one agenda on the item tonight, and it's a recommendation to hire an interim city manager in the process for hiring a full-time permanent city manager. So here to help us with this is Maria Gonzalez, and help us pick up where we left off the last time.
So tonight we need to have the discussion on the two candidates that we interviewed last week, Wesley and Virginia. After we do that, I have some points that I would like to discuss with you to start our search for the new city manager, the permanent city manager. So I would suggest, we can go one by one and just talk about. We don't have to talk about the total if you don't want to, but we can talk about, summarize what we think about the two candidates, and if we have a preference, and then we'll tally the votes and decide who is better. I think that's the best way to do it. And if you want me to start, I'll start, so I'll break the ice. I don't know. I'm open to your suggestions.
You're open to what?
To your suggestions.
Oh, our suggestions. Okay.
How do you want to do the discussion?
Well, it might be helpful to, since we had the grid with some different content area of each there, maybe pros of what we thought.
One.
The form that you gave us last time.
Yep.
Maybe a good place to start.
So we start with customer focus, and I normally put them side by side. And so my assessment of the candidates on customer focus is that they were very level each other. They were very similar. They are both senior city managers, so they understood that they're here to serve the public, which is basically what we're looking for. But that's my assessment of both of them. I have them at the same level. So what do you guys think?
Councilmember Sierra.
I guess I'll go next. So when I looked at the customer focus, really the only thing that differentiated them, at least from my perspective, because I did want to give a clear, just more of a point total just based off of just information that they were able to provide us. One was a little bit more, had more examples, used a lot of time to kind of explain what their philosophy was. So I did provide different point totals in that. I'm not sure. Are we going to say what our point totals are, or
I leave that up to you.
That would be the preference? But there was one clear, one person that had a clearer focus for customer focus.
Yep. I know it's hard to talk about people in public. It's a very unusual thing. If any of you have done hiring in the private sector, this is really hard to do. But we can talk about their names, and that's expected for us. So. If you want to say.
Well, I'm fine. So when I did the ratings, I gave Virginia a 4, and then Mr. Levanchi 2.5 for customer focus.
Okay. Anybody else on this question?
Councilmember Cuesta?
I gave the point edge on this one to Ms. Egger as well. I did like the example she gave on the bus service and how tuned in she was to that one particular constituent of theirs, and they made some adjustments. I think even one way, and they even adjusted back a little bit, maybe they'd overcorrected some, but I thought that there was a responsiveness to that. I agree that there was much more detail in the example, and I liked the demeanor in which she approached that particular story and how she interacted with that person. It sounded like maybe the person wasn't the most cooperative right off the bat, and it sounds like she met him well beyond the middle and was able to reach a resolution with him, which I give her credit for. And so now that is a takeaway from our other candidate either, but I gave her a slight point edge between the two.
Councilmember Martinez?
Thank you. I rated Virginia a little bit higher on this as well. I did also like the example she gave of the gentleman with the bus example. I also liked that she mentioned a couple times about how important it is with citizen interaction, and also with interaction with the employees, and how culture is really important. And one other thing that she said stood out to me. talking about how important it is to listen to the citizens and that a lot of good ideas can come from citizens. She had a few examples of that. And I really like also what she said about how a lot of times you have regular folks that come and to always greet them with a fresh face. So I thought that was really insightful. So for those reasons, I rated her a bit higher.
Any other comments from the rest of you?
Sure.
Member Wink.
I also rated Ms. Egger higher than I did Mr. Levanchi on customer focus. I think we talk about it in a little more detail, or my notes are in more detail, regarding the question that asked about the citizen-government relationship. I detailed it all there, but I think both were, actually, I beg your pardon, what am I saying? I gave them both the same score on that. I beg your pardon. Both provided examples in terms of customer support, examples related to their, a specific interaction that occurred between themselves and one or two citizens or administrators, and I think the citizens and the administrators are customers as far as I'm hearing here, and I think they both were substantial and proved that they exemplified the best of the best there. So they were equal there. Excuse me.
Mayor Pro Tem or Councilmember Berentine? Want to weigh in at all?
I would agree with the Human Resources Director. They were pretty equal.
I think they were pretty close as well. The bus example also stuck out to me for Ms. Egger, but I rated them fairly close.
I also, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Rated Ms. Egger higher on this as well. I thought she gave, I think probably because she gave such specific examples of which you all have already noted too, so I gave her a 4 on this as well.
Okay, so then talking about performance management, my assessment is that Mrs. Eager made a better job of showing us how she sets the performance expectation for her staff. Again, throughout the interview, she was very clear. She gave us plenty of examples, so it was easy for us to see what she does. With Wesley, I mean, Mr. Cuesta even asked him a follow-up on that explosion employee, and he didn't took the opportunity to tell us what he did after that to change the performance expectation. So I rated Virginia higher than Wesley on that one.
I'll go next.
Go ahead. Councilmember Wink.
On that area, I gave Ms. Egger a 5 and Mr. Levanchi a 3. I love the not just the level of detail Ms. Egger provided, but the specifics she spoke to, and high standards of excellence. She talked about the 360 review, and which I know to be a top methodology for developing and nurturing top-performing workforce that's engaged and successful and fulfilled in their work. I loved that approach and all the detail around that type of review, and the importance and rigor that she tends to enforce around that part of performance management. I loved it that she also said, I think, quote unquote, lean in and look together to move toward higher ground as sort of a tenet in her approach to performance management. And it was clear to me that she holds quite a high standard of excellence in this field as well.
Okay. Others? Councilmember Cuesta?
I gave her a substantial edge in this particular category, Ms. Edgar. The approach that I liked in her performance management description is that it not only included the assistant director, where it sounded like the gentleman felt that he was next in line for a particular job and decided to be open for the public, and I think a lot of people can relate to that particular scenario. But then how they lost the bond issue by 30 votes to revamp and refurbish the rec center. So then she had to figure out how they get that done. just with existing resources, bring it back to cost neutral. So I thought you gave an example not of a performance management with a person, but also a department or a city resource in the rec center. So I was very impressed. I think maybe there was a missed opportunity with Mr. Levanchi to not go into a bit more detail on that oil and gas explosion. I'm sure there was an awful lot that happened there, and I'm sure plenty of cleanup that he had to do. And so I think he could have gone into far more detail. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
I was going to reference the same story about the situation with the rec center and how she helped kind of get that employee to be more focused and think about things differently. So I really liked that example. I did also with performance management, I liked that she asked us, what do we expect of her? And so it seems like she really wants to be clear about that. So I thought it was nice that she asked that intern for herself as well. So I rated her a little bit higher.
Councilmember Sierra.
Same here. So Ms. Egger, I did rate her just a little bit higher than Mr. Levanchi. The rec center example was what stuck out for me as well. So.
I rated Ms. Egger a little bit higher on this also, and I picked up on the rec center director situation as well, and her personally reaching out to him to motivate him also.
Valentine.
There isn't anything to add.
So I would agree too. You said the things too.
Then when we talk about active communications, I also rated Virginia higher on that. Again, I mean, her communication with us that night was above what Mr. Levanchi communicated to us. She kept us engaged throughout the whole conversation. She was able to direct the questions and the conversation during the whole hour. We thought that she was going to go over, and she was able to tailor her responses to the time that she had allowed. She left herself, I mean, her communication was above what Mr. Levanchi showed us on that hour of interviewing. So the way she put out that the way that she communicated with people, as you say, Amy, her example about, greeting the same people that come over and over again with a fresh face. I mean, that shows that she really thinks about how she comes to the public and how she communicates. So.
Councilmember Sierra.
Yeah, same here. So Ms. Egger had a higher score there as well. Not only the fact that she used her time well and had a lot of examples for every question that we threw at her, but also the fact that she asked us very relevant questions about Inglewood. So I thought that was a good sign that she did her homework and did take a bit interest in what we thought. So yeah, I thought she just did a great job with the communication space.
So apparently this side of the room, it's not picking your voices up as well, so we just have to speak up a bit more, I guess. Councilmember Martinez.
I would agree. I think Virginia, she answered the questions very thoroughly, and I wish that Wesley would have answered just a little more specifically to the questions. And I feel like in my questions, I tried to ask a couple follow-ups because I was really trying to get at the meat of what I was asking, and he just wasn't able to comfortably give us a lot with examples and with fully answering the questions. I did also like how she budgeted her time well, and she gave us examples of how she communicated with citizens and staff and her employees and previous councils that she worked on, and all of the questions she asked us were related to communication. She asked, what are our expectations? How do we think we're perceived by staff, and how do we think we're perceived by the community? I think those were very thoughtful, insightful questions as well. And she just gave a lot of examples, and a lot of her examples, even if it wasn't directly related to communication, involved communication in her examples. So I really liked the thoroughness of that. So I rated her a bit higher on this one as well.
I'll go next.
Next, go ahead.
I would agree with Member Martinez and Sierra and Director Gonzalez. Throughout the answers provided, the entire hour we spoke with Ms. Egger, many of our questions were answered over and over. to the different facets of her answers and her communication with us. Specific to relationship building, I will say that regarding Ms. Egger's demonstration that night, it's clear that she has a sound track record of exploring and developing relationships between and among citizens and the administration and the government, the government as it is. And also, she made clear her understanding of the ramifications and root causes of conflict and the behaviors and styles or methods of approach and ownership that someone in her position as city manager, whether interim or not, would take to work with these aspects of relationship building and relationship management. With regard to Mr. Levanchi, he did talk about the challenge of reporting structures and has seen some conflict and has worked through some. I did find it hard to ascertain all of the sort of the PARs, the problems, the action taken, the results from the answers that he provided. So I certainly ranked Ms. Egger higher in this category as well.
I'm probably just piling on to a lot of what was said here. I thought that her clock management was great. I looked at my phone twice, I think, in her first response, because I was thinking she's going to go over it, and she somehow finished under the hour. So credit to her for that. And I did think her question of how are you perceived by staff, how are you perceived by citizens, really makes us hold the mirror up to ourselves, which is probably a useful exercise and maybe one we should do more often. And so credit for her. That was a curveball for me. So I thought it was a very insightful question and one that immediately brought me fully back to attention to where we were here. So I gave her the edge here as well. I had a little bit of trouble making out the crux of the conflict that Mr. Levanchi described as well, and maybe I just got lost in the story, but I couldn't quite. I just didn't really make heads or tails of it. So my point edge to Ms. Egger in this particular category.
Councilmember Martinez, is yours up again, or did you just?
It is, but if others want to go, I'll go after.
Well, I'll weigh in. I thought the same things that you've already said. It was pretty specific, and there seemed to be motivation there of making everyone aware of what's going on and a commitment to that, and that's what I really, we expect that out of any candidate, but she really did address it. So somebody that we can trust that's prime in her mind, I think that's important, especially in light of the world we live in with all kinds of competing attentions being pulled at. So, and I also did like her question at the very end that spurred us along to then try and come up with a list of what we were expecting, because all of a sudden then it brought us up to a level of expectation that really was good for us. We still need to do that, but it did, she got a response from us. So, yeah, so I gave her a 5 on it. Anybody else?
Actually, everything's been covered. I gave her an edge on this as well. It's very obvious that she assesses situations and problems and knows what to do about them and is able to resolve a lot of issues. So
I was struck by that as well. I would agree with both of you. I think it's very dangerous when you have somebody who divides the council out and talks to people separately, and it creates a lot of division, as we've seen. And she made that very clear, so she obviously had some experience with that and was very firm on that she was not going to get stuck into that trap.
I did want to say on Mr. Levanchi's behalf that I had a sense of a real warmth there. That was there. It was just not articulated as clearly as how that would connect with us.
Can I just add on one more thing to that?
Do.
One thing that she mentioned or a couple times that really stood out to me, which I think is very important to this interim position, is the importance of culture and mentoring and trust building with the staff. I think that she mentioned that several times, and I think that's going to be really important during this interim position. So that really stood out to me that she mentioned that several times.
Okay, so the last one, the job review, that's what I differentiated the two candidates. It was hard. They both have a lot of experience, a lot of diverse experience. We talked a little bit about it last week when we were talking about the different cities that they have managed. So I went back to both resumes. And again, I gave Virginia an edge there. She has worked for small cities, but also big cities. She has worked for small corporations and big corporations, for-profit and non-for-profit, which was a better experience than Wesley. Then when we talk about foster collaboration, and I'm just going through the criteria here, one of her recommendation letters is from that Park and Rec director that thought that the job was his and was denied. So she did such a good job, he gave her a letter of recommendation. So, I mean, if that doesn't speak to collaboration, I don't know what will. Then she set a vision and a mission for us already. She already asked us what is it that the city wants. She researched the city, and she was able to elaborate on what the research she had and what we posed at her. And then, both of them have the same level of financial knowledge. That's what came through the application. So, yeah, and this last one, I also gave her the edge.
Great. Council response. Councilmember Sierra.
Same here. I gave Ms. Egger the edge on the last category. I still think that Mr. Levanti had a lot to show us during that one interview. I know it was just one night, so I really think if we were to sit down with him again, I think he would provide a lot more clarity into some of the situations that he ran into in his previous position. Just a lot of information there, but Ms. Egger did provide us the collaboration that she did with working on the I-70 traffic project, working with federal authorities there, which is what I was really hoping to hear from Mr. Levanti. So in terms of just what we heard, Ms. Egger definitely got the higher score there.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. In this category, I also ranked Ms. Eggert's higher than I did Mr. Levanti. Building on what we've already said, I want to say that when it came to the question about question 7, the finance administration in particular, I struggled a bit with the brevity and the vague nature of the answer that we got from Mr. Levanti, and I clearly read his resume, and we know what it states and what must have come from all of those experiences he had. I just would have liked to have heard a little bit. It seemed almost the most brief answer he gave the whole night, which was probably the chief answer I would have wanted to hear more detail about. He had a lower score for me there, and particular to Ms. Egger's response in the finance piece, I appreciated the view into the near term and the longer term, both aligned at the same time. I think in many aspects of our work, we have to be able to understand and see and work toward and nurture both of those pieces, not just it related to finance, but all across the board. But she spoke in detail with that clarity of timing and clarity of prioritization based on that timing, and I appreciated the clarity in her view and understanding of what needs to happen when and why, based on all of her experience. So.
Councilmember Martinez.
I would echo what's been said as well. I did like that Wesley mentioned several times about regular check-ins and certain points in time, quarterly, annually, to check in on things. I did like that. I think they both have diverse leadership experience. I think they would both serve really well. But what I did like about what Virginia said, something particular about the finance piece, is that we really need to take a look at how our council goals intersect with our budget and making sure that piece matches up. And I don't know that we've really done that specifically to our goals. So I really liked that she brought that up. And short-term and long-term, I think we need to take a look at. So I really, she edged out a little bit for me on this too.
Councilmember Sierra?
Oh, no,
Oh, you still have it up. I thought I saw you slip it up there again, so. Councilmember Berentine or Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure.
Member Questa?
I did just appreciate her overall demeanor. Everybody's hit on some of the major points here, and I did like her approach, the way she described her relationships with mainly her directors. One of the things that stood out for me with Mr. Lavacci, he said he'd meet with each person. We've got 430 people in the city. If you do 15 minutes with each person, that's you're going to need 800 hours to do that. So that's 10 weeks that you could spend just doing that. And I think that we're going to need this director to really hit the ground running. It did seem to me that Ms. Egger was focused on that top staff, and then she struck me as a person who trusts her staff, that she can check in with them. She'll leave them to manage their people. And I think that is going to be critical with such, if it's 6 to 8 months, that's going to fly by, that we have to have her in the driver's seat, getting us prepared to that next manager, getting what we can accomplished in between that 6 and 8 months. So she just seemed the best prepared to start from day one after all was said and done for me. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Actually, it's pretty much been covered.
Same.
Yeah, so.
So I think we have consensus.
I have a question for you regarding references. So one candidate brought them and the other didn't. Were they encouraged to bring?
Yes, they were both encouraged. They got the same communication.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
the applicants got
Okay.
the same exact communication.
All right. So that's helpful for me. I just wanted to make sure. I thought they did, but then she really, so that's where I really felt like she was on top of her game and would expect that kind of performance in a number of other ways. So I did also want to tell you that Mr. Kostin, is that his last name?
I think
Craig
that's what you said.
Kostin, who is from the ICMA, called me today because he's been out of town and been sort of out of touch, and I was right before I came, and I let him know that I was surprised that we didn't really get a range rider, which was somebody who's retired and doesn't want to do this in the future. I had a sense that both of these want the job in the future, too, but I don't know that for sure. And so he asked me about a couple of other names. Did we get in? So it sounds like there were some more people who were going to apply and chose not to. So I just wanted to clear their name in a sense because I thought that's what we were going to get. And this has no reflection on our two candidates at all, but just that I had hoped that we'd have at least 3 or 4 to be looking at, and that isn't what turned out at the end. That said, the 2 that we got, I still say at the end of the day, I could work with either of them. There's one that's stronger in my mind than others, and the references all showed that as well.
So I think we have consensus. We can take it into the regular meeting, and you can make your decision.
Any other things you want to ask or bring about? You can ask them in there too, but no. Okay. Oh, Councilmember Martinez.
So so I understand the process a little bit more. So say we choose a candidate tonight, and then are they given an offer letter and start like next week, or what does that kind of look like?
City Attorney and I have to work on the details of the contract and the pay, and we will extend an offer to that person if you make a decision today. And then we need to talk to them about the starting date. They may need a week or 2 to clear some things, that clear the calendar. But the idea is to bring them here as soon as possible.
Just a point of information, I thought we already had it out there what the position is paying.
It is a set salary-based prorated or something. I thought was it on the job? Did they know the pay?
No, we
Okay.
haven't discussed pay with them yet. We need to wait until we have a candidate to come up with that number. We have a range, and we're thinking about a range. We will be, within what the people pay. I'm waiting for ICMA and CMA to come back with a recommendation as well.
On
I
pay?
believe there was conversation that we already had that set, and that they would be that they knew what they were walking into, and that wasn't a negotiation, because that would have been of some concern and would have been of some issue during the interview then, because that was my understanding. They knew what it paid, and so then we wouldn't be going back and forth on negotiation. After we vote for somebody, it seems to be the tail wagging the dog, so that's somewhat disappointing. It's not what I believe we were going in for.
Councilmember Questa.
I was under the impression there was a set figure as well. What is the range?
It is a set, and what we were thinking, we haven't sit down and discussed it yet. What we were thinking is to pay what we were paying Eric when he started the job. That's the numbers, but I'm waiting for ICMA and CMA to to wait on that. What is the standard pay out there? Because as the mayor said, there were other candidates. Right now in Colorado, there is a lot of cities that are headless. We had another candidate that didn't came to the interview because they got another offer. And as we know, Avon doesn't have a city manager, and Firestone is the one that offered to the other candidate. So we don't want to go too low, but we don't want to go too high either. So the reference that we had talked about was the starting salary of Eric when he started. That's the top of our range.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you. Forgive my belaboring the point if I'm doing so. So previously, or to date, there's been no discussion or no communication with these candidates regarding
Salary?
No, not salary, but regarding any thoughts or preference. Just no communication regarding desired.
No,
start
they
date?
know. They asked me how soon we were looking, and I told them as soon as possible. We needed an interim
Okay.
manager. They know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they know that it's as soon as possible, but again, since we didn't know how many candidates we have, how long the interviews were going to be, we didn't talk about a date, but they know it's as soon as possible.
Mayor Pro Tem. Go
I
ahead.
do have a question, because I was under the understanding also that we had put that information out there. When you work with ICMA, is this what they generally send, or do you, I would be a little bit concerned about applying for a job that I didn't have any idea
What the salary range?
what the salary range was.
No, I don't know what ICMA does on this, and that we didn't. When I first contacted Craig, that was not in my conversation, nor was it today either. I did think that you said it was pretty clear what it was going to be, and as I was looking online to how other cities have handled these things, it made me a little nervous yesterday because some cities have had to pay for housing for people when they don't live in the same city and have to transit, and I don't know if that might be a need for Ms. Egger.
We haven't talked about compensation at all with any
Yeah.
of the candidates.
So it might need, if she needs an apartment here or something in order to be here, that may be another expense. So, yeah. Councilmember Sierra and then Councilmember.
Well, I guess the only point that I wanted to make is that it is public information what our city manager was making. So it is out there. Whether or not we put it on the posting shouldn't really matter because that information is out there.
Councilmember Barentine.
I think it's ridiculous that we're picking a person first and then we're going to discuss and start negotiating with them after we already know. It was my understanding that we already set it out there, what we were going to pay, and now we're relying on some other organization to say what the average is in the state or what it's going for, what the current employment market is. We have, regardless of whether the employment market, we had two people come, and if that was an issue, then it would have been it should have been part of the interview process. Do you need a place to stay? Are you going to need an apartment? Is it going to be moving costs? Are there going to be other considerations for you coming here? And so I don't like leaving it up to some other organization to decide what we're going to pay based on whatever the top half of the middle of the third of whatever. That's not what I understood. I understood that we already had an amount that we were going to pay and that people were well aware of that when they applied to this. And so I'm very confused about doing this because we put ourselves in an awkward position after we pick a person and then say, what do you need to come here?
So I'm sorry about your misunderstanding and your confusion.
Apparently I wasn't the only one, though, who heard it that way, so
Okay.
I don't think it was mine alone.
So
Or a normal
Let
process.
her answer.
So I'm gonna tell you what best practices are. You interview the candidate and then you negotiate the salary. That's the standard practice in any employment interaction that I have been through my 30 years of experience in HR. Unless you're applying for an hourly wage, that you know what the hourly wage is. When you go for a position, even the higher you go, the more meaningful the negotiation is. Every person's situation is different, so somebody may need a house, somebody may come.
So I think we all know that.
Yeah.
So let me see if we can get to an answer on this. So,
Hold on
okay, go ahead.
ICMA and CML are not going to tell us what to pay them. I just want to know what the industry standard is, what is going on in Colorado, because I don't want to lose the candidate because we go too low or too high. I'm just checking on the numbers that we have. But again, as I said, it's a negotiation. A candidate may need for us to find them a house, and that will play on how much we pay them. That's what is a negotiation.
Yeah, I agree. The way that we are doing, the way you're talking about is pretty normal practice all the way around. That is the way it is. But we had talked about not having to negotiate after we picked them because we wanted to just be clear. So how can we get there tonight with some agreement so it's pretty clear and we don't have to be going back and forth and getting somebody in the crosshairs and not wanting to come? So I would like to say the current salary is our top dollar per month, including all expenses that are needed, housing or whatever, and just say that's 4 years into the position, which means there was an accrual of so I wouldn't mind that as long as that was the cap, and just say that's what it is.
That's the cap that I had in mind. I mean, that's our range. As I said, we were talking about the starting wage for when Eric was hired. That's the number that we had in our.
That's the low one.
Yeah.
Then the high one is what he's currently making.
Yes, that was the range that we established because, as Member Cuesta said, Member O'Toniel said, Eric's salary is public knowledge, so they know what they're coming to.
I don't want to be lowballing this one in
Exactly.
any way whatsoever. They're coming into a tough place for 6 months
Yes.
to try and do something. Councilmember Cuesta?
And I mean, if I were them, I'd be watching this meeting too.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've lost a little bit of leverage here. I would think we'd want, if we're going to go down the avenue of a housing stipend, if that's what I understood.
I'm wondering if that's needed.
We've got to have some very, I would think, strict parameters on what we would do there. Would we have to vote on that?
Well, we have to vote on the salary and all the compensation at some point, yeah.
You have to approve the contract.
Yes.
Yeah, so the contract will come forward.
What's the timeline on that?
We have draft ready to go, so quickly, next meeting.
We might have to have a special meeting to approve it next week, is that what you're thinking? Because in 2 weeks from now, we hope they're in place.
You could call a special meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay. We know what the low and the high is. Yeah. All right, on to the next item, which is figuring out the long term.
So we have a job description. You can review that job description. The council has to sit down and write what the expectations are for the interim and for the long term. We will get to work on those. We need to start making decisions on our selection process. Okay, I know the history with the city is that you hire one firm and you depend on that one firm to bring you forward candidates. That has advantages and disadvantages. Okay, because once you marry one firm, you cannot go out and get your own candidates, or you don't get more diversity that that firm may have. I would suggest to the council that we go, instead of marrying with one firm and let them do the search for us, we will look for a recruiting firm that will bring us candidates and we'll do the searching ourselves. That will increase the competition among well-recognized firms, and I have 5 names. I can, do a presentation once. The next time we'll talk about this issue. Instead of having one firm exclusively doing the search, we can have recruiting fees with them, and they can bring candidates to us, and we decide which candidates from which firm we want to interview, and then we'll pay them a percentage. Okay, the costs are pretty similar. What you save on one end, they're going to pay on the other end. But I think it will open up searches because we have firms that are in the East Coast, we have firms that are on the West Coast, we have local firms, and we can have them all and do a nationwide search that will broaden our horizons on candidates. So that's what I would like to suggest to council to think about. Do you want to go with one firm in exclusive, or you rather have it open and have a recruiting fee, which is customary between 10 and 15% of the salary. That's what they will probably charge us. Whoever candidates wins, we're going to have to pay 10 to 15% of their salary. That's the customary recruiting fee. If we do an exclusive search, I haven't looked at prices, but we have the example of what we paid for the city attorney last was $27,000. So the numbers are going to be very close. I don't think it's a numbers game. I think we want to open up our pool of candidates and have the most qualified person. So that's consideration number one for you. As I said, I will bring you the name of at least 5 firms. There is, I think, 3 on the list that are local, and I'll tell you what I know about them. Then we will do the process that we will do is, okay, we come up with a posting that we're going to put out. We do a flyer, and I already have our communications guru, graphic designer guru, working on that flyer with new pictures and wording, and so it looks like the way we want the city to look out there. We will do the recruiting. It's also customary to have the posting up for 60 days, okay? Because many of the people that may apply may be on the job still, so they need to make a commitment. Once they apply, it's bound to become public information, so they need to make a commitment because it may mean that the city they're working on find out that they're applying for this job. So the posting will be up for 60 days, and then we will have probably another 60 days to do the interviews depending on the number of candidates we have. We will, as I said, we will select the 5 finalists, we'll make it public, we'll do the interviews the same 5 or 10 or 7, I mean, how many finalists we want to have. We'll do the interview in the same manner that we did the interview this time. But I was planning on, for the interviews, several members of the council have said that 2 hours was enough when you interview with Eric.
It was 1.
1 hour. So I was planning on having the candidates, the finalists, spend a whole day in the city. And I want you to think about how you want this play out. I thought they can come and do staff in the morning, okay, spend the morning with staff, different areas of staff. We can pick who we want to be. Then they will do lunch with the directors, and it will be all, questions and answers. And then we can do a city tour, open to the citizens, so they can spend time with the candidates. And then at night they will have how many hours you want to interview with the council. And of course, the tour will be also open to the council, so the council can interact with the candidates. So we will have them for the whole day in the city to be interviewed formally and informally by several members of council, obviously, but also staff and the group of directors. That's what I was thinking on doing. So we have plenty time with all the candidates. So we're thinking about 5 different or 7 different days with the finalists that we pick. So that's what I was thinking. Then we need to give them another 60 days, so that's the 6 months that we need the interim for, to relocate.
Can we back up for a minute?
Yes.
You're giving us a couple of options on how to go about the hunting part of this. One of them is a firm. If we interview 5, 6 firms and pick one to go with, who manages the whole thing. And the second one is just more of a hybrid with a fee for service for headhunting.
Yeah.
And it's the second one that you think would be
I would prefer the second one because of the diversity that will offer the council. I mean, once we pick a firm, if we pick a good one, great. But if we pick a not so good, and I heard that the experience before wasn't good.
Well, it was just very short, and picking someone, I mean, I think we got a good candidate. We had several really good candidates. One of the reasons why we did is because we had some great videos, 2 of them, to scan first before we got to the interview process. We did that also with the city attorney. I know that's not always enjoyed by people on both ends, but it certainly helped to do some screening of 10, 12, 15 candidates before we picked our final group. And so I'm more concerned about the process of what's our face time with these people and hearing enough from them than it is necessarily whether it's one firm or another. I'm fine trying the fee for service thing too, if that works better.
And we can discuss how we want to pre-screen those candidates and come up with a way that satisfies everybody in the council. Again, as I said, we have several decisions. The first one will be, are we going exclusive with one firm or we want to have it open to headhunters? That will be the first one. Then we need to decide how we're going to pre-screen those candidates and then how we're going to do the interview with the finalists.
I think
those are the 3 big
Let's not get into how we set the day up quite yet, but let's figure out how we want to go about getting the candidates in the door, because there may be some firms that have some ways of doing it. If we decide to go that way, that is their style, and that's why we picked them. for those of you that were not involved in the city attorney or the past city manager, when we had several firms, they came in and sort of pitched to us how they would make the process work, how long it would take, how many candidates they thought that we could get, what would be the first touch point, second touch point, how they would screen them, and we came up with all the questions with them from start to finish that would screen. So figuring that part out, I think, is going to be really important. So we've got this kind of like screening process where we feel like we finally got really what we think are some of our top candidates before we take our time. I also would really like to have citizens involved, and we have had that in the city manager one in particular. We had a sort of a group of folks that came around during that day that then filled out some surveys and gave some feedback, as well as an evening event where people got to meet. So I know that there's folks already that are asking, can I be a part of that? And I said, I'm not the one setting anything up. It's council's choice. And when we get to that point, let's certainly see if we can find a way to have citizen
Yeah, I think
input.
we have to have everybody involved. I agree. It's a very important decision that will touch everybody's life. So I would like to hear feedback, because again, on whatever you decide, if you want to do exclusive, I will look for some type of firms, and if you want to do more open search, I will look for other search firms. So I need to know that so I can present to you choices.
Do you have any druthers tonight, anybody? Do you want to think about it? Do you have
I prefer to cast a wide as net as possible so we get the diversity and variety of applicants. But whichever approach to that, I don't really have a preference.
Councilmember Questa?
The more candidates, the better. I think that just from a few of the neighbors I heard from, they were surprised that we only got 2 applicants for the interim position. You know, and I think people are expecting just a larger group of people to select for.
The more qualified candidates, the better.
Hopefully with a larger bunch, you just get more qualified just by nature.
Hopefully.
I would imagine we'll get a lot, especially if it goes outside of the state. People are looking to Colorado to move and want to make a change.
And I can approach the firms and see who will be open to a mix of, I mean, we can work with a firm that will take applicants from other places also. And that can be also, I can talk to the firms and see who will be open to something like that.
What do you mean by that? Meaning
Okay, so there is 2 basic forms of getting up candidates. If you sign an exclusivity contract, we will have one search firm that will manage the funnel of applicants. Okay, we will tell them how we want them selected, but they will do the managing. So every applicant will have to go through them to come to us. Okay, that's one module out there. The other module will be to just open it up, put it out there, and not everybody, but we will have respectable firms to submit respectable resumes. We will get a lot of people that apply on the website because a lot of people think that they're qualified for the job. We will get a lot of people that is not qualified for the job that will apply. That happens with every job. But we will have 5 or 6 respectable search in the public sector firms that look out for candidates, because it's not only open it up for the public and whoever wants to apply. We also need somebody that is experienced on cold calling, is what we call it in recruiting, calling people. Okay, I know the manager of, I don't know, Frederick, Maryland is looking for a job. Let me call him and get his resume. Okay, so we need some of that, and I don't have the expertise here in the city to be doing that. We need somebody that is experienced in public administration, searching, so they will search for us on candidates that may not apply on Indeed or on the website, but candidates that are called and recruited to come work for us. That's how we're going to get the best candidates. So basically, there's 2 ways of doing that. We let one firm to take the lead, or we work with several of those firms and tell them, okay, you are a recruiter, you are a recruiter, you are a recruiter, bring me your candidates.
Thank you.
Other questions? I think my concern with the fee service one is that some of the firms actually do a lot of legwork ahead of time, even go on site, visit these people where they are working currently, do lots of interviewing there, and gave lots and lots of feedback to us. And the more the better. I don't know how to get that on this fee service. Is that also a way that they can do it?
I'll talk to them.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to feel how you feel about it, so I can talk to both sides of the spectrum and see what they can offer. But I didn't want to just talk to 20 firms out there and then you want to go exclusive. So I'll talk to them and see what they can offer. We're going to have to do a request for information, obviously. I'm already working on that, both sides. So I'll talk to some of the firms, the most respected firms out there, and come up with some answers that they can give me, so we can get a better idea.
Any other questions or responses to these ideas? No? All right.
So the things that she has suggested, how long will it take to get some ideas, more information? Like, would we be talking about this next week at the study session, or?
I cannot promise you that it will be next week, but in 2 weeks we should have enough of an answer. I should be able to talk to some of there is a ton of firms out there that work on the public sector, so I'll talk to some of the ones that I already have and bring you some information with both of the options that I spoke to tonight.
So when we have more information, it might be more helpful for us
Yeah.
to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and I think what might help is if even they could give us a quick overview, the stuff that they just generally have online of what they normally do, that might be just helpful to jog our minds about, oh, this is a way that some do it the other way, or whatever. I think getting the ideas out there, what might be the way they serve us, would be helpful to make a choice at the very end about which way to go.
So I'll explore both possibilities within the next 2 weeks.
Could I interject?
Yes, please do.
In 2 weeks, there's no meeting. It's the 5th Monday. We've chosen not to have a meeting, so we could probably have the information on the 5th of November. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be fine. I'll have it by then for sure.
Yeah, sooner than later, but all right, thank you. I think we can adjourn and head into the regular meeting then. Thank you. This ends the study session, and we'll reconvene in the regular meeting.
Questionnaires back?
Yes.
Thank you.